Michael Ayala here with Judge Ashley Wilcott, turning to Wisconsin now, where a murder defendant was coloring inside of a courtroom as he faces the possibility of prison for the rest of his life, and he's 11 years old.
11 years old. He's headed to trial accused of killing his mom. Police say the boy shot her for waking him up early and not buying him a virtual reality headset. Scripps News Milwaukee has the story.
For the kids who go through the Juvenile Justice Center on Watertown Plank Road, they get a number of benefits they wouldn't otherwise have if they committed those crimes just a few years later. But for the boy who was under this roof Tuesday, he may not get any of those opportunities if he's tried as an adult for killing his mother. He's a boy who should be starting school, practicing his ABCs, and coloring inside the lines. Instead, he was in a courtroom today, facing the possibility of prison for the rest of his life. TMJ4 News is not naming the boy in accordance with the judge's ruling to keep his identity private.
And nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Milwaukee Police Detective Timothy Keller replayed what happened last November and how he may have slipped up, believing the boy's first explanation of what happened, that the gun accidentally went off while he was playing with it.
I wanted to believe that something like that were the truth and that it wouldn't come to this.
Ultimately, the boy will go to trial. He's currently charged as an adult, but that could change.
The stakes are very large. We're dealing with a 10-year-old boy here.
Jonathan Lavoie is a defense attorney with no affiliation to this case. He explained how the next step is going through a reverse waiver process, essentially an attempt to have the case sent through the juvenile court system instead of the adult system.
So the judge has to listen to additional testimony now about whether the system can adequately deal with this child's needs and whether the adult court system is the right place for this child.
Lavoie says on the juvenile side, there are resources for the boy and his family, counselors, social workers, wraparound services to try and rehabilitate this child. The alternative?
The adult court system is much more of just a warehouse. It's very likely the juvenile court system is going to provide a lot more benefit to this child and ultimately to the community.
To have the reverse waiver accepted, the boy's defense team will have to prove three things: that the adult system doesn't have adequate treatment options for the boy, that a move to the children's court won't depreciate the seriousness of the crimes levied against him, and that keeping him in the adult court isn't necessary to deter other kids from committing the same crime. We'll find out what the court will decide in the next few weeks when the boy is back in court on October 6th. Reporting in Wauwatosa, Sean Gallagher, TMJ4 News.
Just an incredible visceral reaction just watching, knowing what's going on in that courtroom and having someone using a coloring book, a child using a coloring book. You heard there in the piece that there is a difference, and a pretty major difference, between the juvenile system and the adult system. This is an area that you used to work in, very passionate about. Is that in fact the case?
Well, that's a good question, the reality versus, but listen, juvenile, it's to treat and rehabilitate, and then when you have adult, it's more to punish and deter. And the reality is there are a lot of services available to youth and children compared to the adults. Are there enough? No. But compared to the adults, I would say in my experience, yes, many more services available. All right, let's bring in Chris-Ann Hall. Chris-Ann, this is what I need to ask you. I don't believe you can charge a 10-year-old as an adult because I don't believe they have the mens rea. That's just my opinion. What do you think as a former prosecutor?
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I'm not just a former prosecutor. I was a prosecutor in the juvenile justice system in the circuit that I worked in. And I can tell you that as a prosecutor, my heart broke for these children. Most of the time I wanted to take the children home and put the parents in prison. And the reality is, this is such a culturally strange thing for us. The system itself is not established to deal with it. And this is not something that the adult system should be forced to deal with. And what we have to realize here, you know, we talked about this in Sidney Powell's case. What about mental illness and this? This young man is 10 years old. He has no remorse. His grandmother said that after his mother was dead, he went on to Amazon and bought his own VR headset and then asked Grandma, when is it coming? Is it going to arrive soon? I'm not sure if he's capable of knowing what happened, what kind of social deficiency he has, what kind of psychological deficiency he has, but this is not a normal 10-year-old child. And I think as a prosecutor, if I tried to prosecute him as an adult, I don't think I could get a jury to hold him to adult standards, especially knowing that he has this complete disconnect with reality on what's happening.
But obviously, you've got some things here working for the prosecution. They say that he lied to police. He thought he had a confetti gun. He thought the gun accidentally went off. Then he told another story about aiming at the mother through one eye or the other, and they figured it all didn't make any sense, which led to the charges. So does that go to mens rea?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's a great question. Let's have you weigh in, because I understand why you argue it goes to mens rea. But again, a 10-year-old brain developmentally is a completely different issue than even a 15-year-old or a 20-year-old.
Yeah, I don't think mens rea of murder is the same as understanding that I did something wrong. A 10-year-old child will make up stories about taking cookies out of the cookie jar, right? So I think that's the kind of level we're dealing with here. I don't think he really comprehends what's happening.